but this is now what I call one of the ills of technology, the misuse of technology, which perpetuates patriarchal attitudes, male dominance, and it also ensures subordination of females. So this is what we're dealing with here. We also have an act which is called the Preconception and Prenatal Diagnostic Techniques, which makes sex abortion illegal. It also makes it illegal to find out what is the sex of your unborn child, because that is what is being used as a technique to not have females being born. So we have 500,000 girls lost annually every year because of sex-selective abortions, and the consequences of these are almost incredible to imagine. But it's now coming up, and I'll show you how that happens later. Though the act is in place, it's very poorly enforced, and you ask the question why? Because the authorities themselves come with patriarchal mindset, and so they actually agree to having sex-selective abortion because they think that that is the way things should be, and men should always dominate women, and it is better to have men born than women. We chose one of the states in the country, because it was economically a very prosperous state, but it had the lowest sex ratio in the country. In some areas, close to 762 women for 1,000 men, but if one followed nature, it should be around 1,011 females to 1,000 boys being born. So you can see the discrimination right here. It's also a state with high infant mortality, low literacy levels for women, marriages for girls very often before 18 years, 59, almost 60%, rape cases in the state, dowry deaths, dowry torture, and we also have malnutrition. So while you're saying child malnutrition, it also reflects on the nutritional status of mothers, which actually affects the children. So we thought this was one of the best states in which we could run our program. So what was the objective of the program that we had were to reduce the cases of female feticide, so to actually bring up the ratio, reduce the incidences, and how do you engage institutes of higher education, especially girls' colleges. Now you have to understand, in a patriarchal setup like this, there will not be co-ed colleges, or rather very few of them. You have to focus on girls' colleges. Why else did we choose educational institutions? One, because they are credible. They have a credibility, they educate, they empower, they transform. And one of the mandates of educational institutions is social transformation. So we said, let's address that. Educational institutions also have a status to convene, to initiate dialogue. They have a platform and a position where they can actually bring together the community, district level officials, government officials, to talk about issues of social relevance. They also are in a position to take a stand, and like we said earlier in the morning, universities are not neutral, so you cannot be neutral about issues like this. We also thought it's important to deal with educational institutions because they are a microcosm of the society that surrounds them. So the attitudes that are prevalent in society are going to be prevalent in the educational institutions. So if we could change the attitude of the students, the faculty and the staff, there was a good chance that that would be influencing the community outside of this institution. So we said educational institutions was a good bet. So Priya partnered with postgraduate colleges for women. There were 12 of them. Community leaders, citizen leaders, elected representatives, religious leaders, very important, civil society organizations, as well as the government authorities. So we actually played an intermediary role between all of these agencies. Most importantly, the community and the colleges. There were many initiatives that Priya took, and we included all kinds of stakeholders. The media were very important partners here, and so were the youth. So the youth, both within the educational institutions as well as the youth within communities who may or may not have had access to education, but who were very important in the campaign. And what we also did was we had a very, very strong training and orientation program of all of these stakeholders, including the government officials. Key to these was giving them information about the Act, the PCP and DT Act, because a lot of the officials were not even aware of the Act. It was like it was not of any relevance to them. We also have workshops on what is sex and gender, how we confuse sex roles and gender roles, and that's why we have the status of women as low as it is. We talked about the impact of the skewed sex ratio, which was becoming apparent, but it was not linked to a larger national framework, because it's not only in this state was that there is a skewed sex ratio. So the impact of it on the country at large was also important, because then people saw it outside their own little community, and then I think it became more relevant. There was also a lot of training in how do you run a campaign, okay, how do you plan, what is the methodology you use, how do you raise funds at a local level. So all of this went into our campaign, including regular cluster meetings using the youth of the community and the colleges to attend those meetings, and also Priya's own field animator programs drawn from the community itself, who played a very key role in the linkages. So there were some very good impacts. We had not included boys in this campaign, which now in hindsight we realize in the next campaign we need to do that. So college students taking a pledge that they would never commit to undergoing any kind of sex determination test, especially young girls, because if you're looking at college age, then they're all 18 plus, almost ready to get married. So girls committing to this. Couples with children with daughters, proudly saying they've had daughters, doing all the traditional celebrations which come with the birth of a son, which is celebrating, giving sweets, having a band, performing all the pujas and the festivities that go with the birth of a son. Unlike when you have a daughter born, there is complete silence, or you have a mourning like there is a death in the family. So now we find that those changes have begun taking place in the community, where the birth of a girl is celebrated with joy. Families also began availing of schemes. So schemes for the girls' education, for the girls' health. But I must point out here, it's not an issue of resource, it's not an issue related to wealth or status of a family. In Delhi, in one of the most affluent families, the most affluent communities in the city, you have the lowest sex ratio in the country. So it has nothing to do with the economics of it all, it's attitude. And we found that education institutions continued with this program even after we left. Because it is a girls' college, we continue with the program of awareness and sensitivity amongst the students themselves. Most important, we had communities taking initiatives to monitor pregnant women. When I say monitor pregnant women, like you know, within a small group of who is pregnant, so to monitor that they complete their full term. Otherwise you find that women suddenly have stopped being pregnant because of a miscarriage. So monitoring of pregnant women to ensure that they reach full term, because a lot of women would like to have a child irrespective of its sex, but are forced by families to have abortions because they do not want another female child or even the first female child. What was important about this is that it was a partnership amongst a lot of stakeholders, the community, the youth being very important. The colleges of women were there. We had a lot of exercises and learning groups, learning games. We also used what were culturally popular activities within the village. So like we have a morning walk in the community. So it's like a morning walk, a wake-up call. So in this case, a wake-up call having the meaning of please be ready and sensitive to the dangers that are there out of having only male children. Street theatre, there was wall writing. We had seminars, so that's what we said, we had seminars in the institution where community people came and spoke. We had older women speak, we had older men speak, actually denouncing female feticide, and that was really powerful to all the students as well as the other people sitting there, including the government stakeholders who are supposed to monitor this program. Okay, so let's just four posters quickly, just run through them. The missing girl. This is a tigress who is ridden by a goddess. The goddess rides on the tiger, but where is the goddess if there are no girls? Women are also perceived as goddesses. There's a missing universe. That you can see the college element. You need both locks and keys. And this is very symbolic because a married woman has a red vermilion to indicate she's married. But if you're going to be married to 3 men, it means you have 3 husbands. So that is what women found most horrific. That's it.